So at the outset, I'd like to thank the Directorate of Research, Applied Research, for offering me this opportunity to talk about academic integrity. And I thank all of the people who are attending amidst the busy schedules and other plans. I'd like to make it really quick and precise about academic integrity, and I'd like to share my thoughts first, and then probably we can have a discussion. I'm sorry, I could be sitting in a noisy place. I'm in my office, and since everybody's having a free time now, all the people are here and maybe talking and discussing things. I'm sorry for that. I hope it does not come in our way. Now we'll start with the objectives. Academic integrity, three main objectives. We'll try to define academic integrity as concisely as possible, and then talk about different aspects of academic integrity, and then just demonstrate how to maintain academic integrity in general, in research, in academics in general, in research, or in day-to-day academic endeavors. So let us begin by trying to define what academic integrity is. Although we are very familiar with the word academic phrase academic integrity, we may not be very keen on defining what exactly academic integrity is. The moment we think about academic integrity, what comes to our mind would generally be plagiarism or cheating. Academic integrity means acting with the values of honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility in learning, teaching, and research. So it encompasses all these areas. It's not just exams, it's about learning, it's about teaching, and it's about research as well. Now, if you could look at the meme that is shared, the paper you wrote for me about nuclear reactors, what does it mean when the big red meltdown light is flashing? This is especially what happens when there is no acting with honesty, trust, fairness, or respect or responsibility. The universities consider that it is vital for students and all staff to act in an honest way and take responsibility for their actions and every part of their work. Staff should be role models to students. Academic integrity is important for an individual's and a university's reputation. Of course, some of the section is being cut because of the alignment adjustment. This is from Universities Australia. This is a guide that they published for academic integrity way back in 2017. So I've taken this definition uh, after going through different books and articles on academic integrity. This is the best one that includes all those areas. It's a wholesome definition of academic integrity. Now, let us see what is the scope of academic integrity in general. It's a complex multi-stakeholder responsibility which goes well beyond students cheating or plagiarizing. Although these two are the core of academic integrity problems that come to our mind when we think of academic integrity, the moment we think about academic integrity, but it goes well beyond that. Whether students cheat or plagiarize, it goes well beyond those two areas. Now, it's a teaching and learning issue. There is a symbiotic relationship between academic integrity and academic quality and standards. So one goes up, the other goes up. The one goes down, the other goes down. It works like that. Now, it is the responsibility of all members of the academic community. It is not the student's responsibility alone, which is often the case uh, as assumed by teachers or institutions worldwide. It is often the responsibility vested in the students. That's what people think, but it's not exactly that way. It doesn't work that way. It is the responsibility of it's a collective responsibility of the academic community that works here. governments, regulatory bodies, and institutions play a crucial role in maintaining academic integrity. This is taken from a book by Braytag, which was published in 2020. So we can see that academic integrity goes beyond the limited scope with which we generally understand it. It is actually a very complex, multi-stakeholder thing, which should be viewed and approached from that level of understanding. And it is only then that we really get to understand it, and we really get to solve the problems related to academic integrity that we face from day to day in our academic careers. Now, let us have some historical perspectives. I'm a person who believes in understanding history first to understand the present. So let us look at some historical perspectives on academic integrity. Now, academic dishonesty dates back to the ancient Greek and Chinese civilizations. This could be surprising, but it is true. Athletes who participated in the ancient Olympic Games that began in the 8th century BC, is said to have cheated. This happened due to the pressure that individual competition exerted upon the athletes. I wouldn't uh, go get into the details of how they cheated, because that will be a long story. To cut it short, we just need to understand that there was the practice of cheating in 8th century BC. And we are talking about Olympic Games, the ancient Olympic Games in ancient Greece. So why was there cheating? This is more important, because of pressure that individual competition exerted upon the athletes. So that particular point, I'd like to emphasize on that individual competition and pressure, because we'll have to use it further as we move further ahead. There is an emphasis on performance, individual performance, that is, which obviously increases pressure. Similar is the case with the series of civil service examination that began in Imperial China from the 7th century until early 20th. So it began in 7th century AD, and stopped by the early 20th century. Now, this was the case, moving from a large district exams all around the country to increasingly smaller and more intense exams in provincial centers, major cities, and finally the palace itself. So, like, it started with small exams across the country, and it was narrowed down and down, and until it reached the top spot of the palace, Imperial Palace. So, I mean, even here, the problem was individual competition, and the exams were very intense. And obviously, because of the pressure and also the prestige that was attached to the civil service examinations, there was obviously the chance of academic dishonesty creeping in, and it did creep in into this sphere. Now we can look at some forms of academic misconduct to be clear in our presentation, or the idea, forms of academic misconduct. The most common one is plagiarism. Then we have cheating, which is another form, and then falsification of data, misrepresentation of credentials, unauthorized collaboration, self plagiarism, inappropriate citation. So now you can see how wide the scope of academic misconduct is. Academic integrity is not just plagiarism and cheating, but also the other things mentioned here. Now, plagiarism, as we know, is presenting someone else's work as your own, and cheating is using unauthorized materials or assistance. Falsification of data, fabricating or manipulating data to support conclusions. Falsely claiming credentials or qualifications is what we call misrepresentation of credentials. Collaborating against guidelines or expectations is unauthorized collaboration, and submitting previously submitted work is self-plagiarism. Excuse me, just assume to be a little discreet. Okay. Uh, Sorry for that. Then there is inappropriate citation, which is using incorrect or incomplete citations, failing to cite sources properly, which is like very common among our students because they are not familiar with style sheets or they don't take the time to get familiar with style sheets. So these are the 7 most common forms of academic misconduct. You may have other forms as well, but these are the most common forms of academic misconduct that we'll have to deal with in our academic careers. Now, I would like to list certain cases of academic dishonesty in action. See, copying from another student during exam, using a crib sheet during a closed book exam, previewing the exam from a test file when the teacher does not permit this and is unaware of the file, presenting a paper copied from a file or purchase and presenting it as original work, faking the results of a laboratory experiment or work, asking for examination content or answers from another student, using material from another student's paper without credit to the other student, working in a group when an assignment was assigned as individual work, sitting for or taking an exam for another student, memorizing questions from an exam in order to create a file for later use, writing a laboratory report without performing the lab activity or experiment, purchasing or receiving notes from a fellow student, basing an article report on an abstract rather than reading the assigned article, selecting 2 answers on a computer answer sheet when instructed to make one choice. See, this is strange, but it is dishonesty. Allowing another student to look at one's answer sheet during a quiz or exam. So, like allowing another person is to look at your answer sheet is also part of dishonesty. Claiming authorship or participation in a group paper or presentation when no contribution was made. This can be seen in Danielson et al., published in 2006. All these academic dishonesty in action. Now we have some other special scenarios. These are special, within brackets because these are really special. Attempting to cheat, even if unsuccessful, is also academic dishonesty. This is quoted by Lambert et al., published 2003. Feigning illness while not ill to postpone a quiz, exam, or submission of an assignment. This is very common, and we encounter this every now and then. Reporting the death of a loved one to postpone a quiz, exam, or submission of assignment. Found in Areli 2012 and Adams 1990. I would like to, this is interesting. Adams has written a paper, and the title of the paper is interesting. I would like to just, quote that paper, the title of that paper. Um, just give me a second. Sorry, I can't find the paper. But yes, Areli quotes it in her book under the title Dead Grannies. And I'd like to read a little bit from that book. Over the course of many years of teaching, I've noticed that there typically seems to be a rash of death among students' relatives at the end of the semester. And it happens mostly in the week before final exams and before papers are due. In an average semester, about 10% of my students come to me asking for an extension because someone has died, usually a grandmother. Because I find it very sad and I'm always ready to sympathize with my students and give them more time to complete their assignments. But the question remains, what is it about the weeks before finals that is so dangerous to students' relatives? Mike Adams says that grannies have a difficult or the most dangerous time during the weeks prior to the grandchildren's exams. And this seems funny, but it is true. And he is basing his research in the case in America, case studies from America, but there are other studies that have come from other parts of the world that vouches this to be true even there. And we here can obviously uh, have experiences, share experiences from our own cases, our own classes, our own students here in the Bahrain Polytechnic or the erstwhile institutes where I worked. I've had similar cases. You can also share your experiences with this, but this is sadly true in many instances. But also, what happens is like when there is academic dishonesty of this type, dishonesty in reporting the death of a loved one just to evade an exam. The problem is when there is an actual death happening, that student would be at a disadvantage because we always have a doubt regarding this particular case. So we need to really balance between the actual one and the feigned one. Now, why is there academic dishonesty? Of course, one reason we've already mentioned in the historical perspectives that I just shared with you. There is a pressure to succeed, high stakes. There is parental pressure. There is peer pressure. Limited time to study. And there is fear of losing status amongst peers. Then there is feeling peer pressure to cheat, observing cheating, like you look at cheating and then you learn how to cheat. Lack of understanding of what plagiarism is. This is also a true, you know, problem of there being academic dishonesty. They don't know that this is dishonest. It is dishonest to cite or to quote someone without citing. Lack of knowledge of institutional policies. This is also a truth. If they're not sure about the institutional policy related to academic dishonesty, they will definitely have this practice in their assessments or academic life in general. We find this listed in a study by Theot and Spitt published in 2012. Now, what are the values and ethics that we really need in order to maintain integrity? This is a question that we need to address in the beginning in order to understand how we can go about, you know, ensuring that there is academic integrity and there is no academic dishonesty among our students. So there is honesty, trustworthiness, fairness, respect, and responsibility, as mentioned in the initial slide. There is this basic requirement of taking responsibility for one's work. If we encourage, we make them do this, make them understand the value of how to take responsibility of one's own work, then it is half completed. Then we have to make sure that they understand the necessity to be transparent about methods and sources. This would naturally be, you know, a continuation of the previous point, taking responsibility of the work that we do. And if it is not the work that we have done or we have borrowed the ideas from someone else, we just acknowledge that, okay, we have used this particular, and we have to make make the students understand why it is important to be transparent. And then we have to make sure, as a continuation of transparency, we have to make sure that how important it is to give proper credit to the works by other people. Now, these are the basic steps that we need to ensure to make sure that there is academic integrity in practice in the academic circles. How do we ensure integrity? There are certain steps to do that. These are the steps that we can basically practice to make sure that there is academic integrity among the academic community in general. Enhancing pedagogy and educational support within a university or college. Now, this is very important. Education is not just completion of syllabi, but there is something more than that. So, how do we enhance pedagogy and support that we give within the institution that will lead to ensuring integrity? It depends on how we can integrate these things well into the day-to-day delivery of our lectures that have an impact on ensuring integrity. That is the enhancement that we need to make. It is not that we need to have a separate track for integrity. That will be really unsuccessful or boring, because it is just like, the value education classes that we have in schools. It just don't instill any values. Rather, more often than not, they destroy the values because it is not properly done. It is not the problem with value education itself, but it is a problem with how not to do it and how to do it. They don't differentiate between that. And then there is development of an academic integrity policy for staff and students that align with this educational emphasis. We have the general idea of education, we have the general idea of academics, and how we develop a policy for this. And then just not developing the policy, we have to make sure that everybody understands or everybody is aware of this policy being in place. And then we can offer standalone courses in ethics and ethical decision making, which is like, a separate track in itself. Once you integrate the academic integrity part into existing courses, then we can think of giving standalone courses. But it is effective if we give it in the right way, only if we give it in the right way. I would like to insist that point there. Now, embedding content dealing with universal standards and discipline-specific ethical dilemmas within multiple courses across curriculum. This is what I mentioned just a little while ago. We need to have an awareness ourselves about what are the best practices, what are the best, uh, you know, possible ways in which education could be taken ahead, and how well we can integrate into the international standards level. We need to be aware of these standards first, and then we need to localize it in the best possible way to our own institution to make sure that these standards do fit into our established mission, our vision, and our individual academic endeavors. Embedding students in a culture of integrity and involving them in its through a continuance through school-wide education, context-specific prevention, and individual remediation. There are 3 points here. School-wide education, so it is like the larger scheme. Then the context-specific prevention, which happens from time to time, individual assessments, individual what do you call cases, scenarios, and then individual remediation. That will be the case with individual students, how we go about handling cases of academic dishonesty. So, if we ensure these basic steps are taken, then we can be sure that integrity can be ensured within the academic circle that we are working. Some closing thoughts here. If you look at the memes there, the first one says, the permission from the roommate to use the paper, and there is no need to cite. How can this be plagiarism? This is the lack of awareness that is being portrayed here. Then the second one is more philosophic, or what I call creative recycling. The school called plagiarism. Creative recycling and plagiarism. You see, look at the contrast there. We can help the majority of our students stay academically honest by doing exactly what our profession demands, becoming as informed as we possibly can about how learning works. This is very important. This is one basic step that we need to ensure that we always take, becoming as informed as we possibly can about how learning works. It is not just, as I mentioned earlier, just imparting information, but there is a higher word that we always use: knowledge. Are we spreading knowledge? Are we distributing knowledge? Are we helping them generate knowledge? I think this is the more important, significant question that we need to ask uh, ourselves. If we begin from there, well, our road is going to be smooth. Now, becoming as informed as we possibly can about how learning works, constructing learning environments based on what the research tells us. So, like, if we try to understand how learning works, then of course we'll go on to construct environments, situations, contexts based on our awareness or our understanding of how learning works. And then we need to care deeply that those environments are creating deep and long-term learning in our students. Short-term goals will not work for academic integrity, because academic integrity is something that we need to impart in our students for a lifetime. And because we are doing it for a lifetime, we need to look at the environment that we create, the environment of academic integrity or learning that we create, sustain forever. There should be a deep and long-term learning, required. We cannot, for instance, we cannot ensure that, okay, this is something, this is something that is to be done, or academic dishonesty, plagiarism should be avoided, cheating should be avoided if you want to be, if you want to clear this course, if you want to pass this course, if you want to clear this exam. That is a very, very, what do you call, narrow-minded short-term goal. This is not what academic integrity is trying to address. This is not what I'm trying to address with my presentation. Rather, we are looking at a long-term relationship, a long-term goal that will be with the students forever, as long as they are doing some kind of academic activity, or some kind of activity in their life in general. And this is how we can ensure that we don't have to discuss academic dishonesty at all in our teaching career again. These are some of the references that I've used for this. Mm, You can look at the title of the first one, if you can see: The Dead Grandmother Exam Syndrome and the Potential Downfall of American Society. That was the one I was looking for. In the beginning, I couldn't locate the article. Uh, so that's the article by Adams, which really uses the honest truth about dishonesty. The honest truth about dishonesty. You can see that it's in brackets. Honest is in brackets. Now, all these works are really deep and touching on different aspects of academic integrity, and how to go about dealing with academic dishonesty, and how to make sure that students, imbibe the values of academic integrity in their day-to-day life. So, if you could go through some of them, it would really be helpful. It will enhance your understanding of the whole concept of academic integrity. If you have any questions or any thoughts to share, I would love to.
Hi, Dr. Krishna. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. That's for you.
So I just thought I'd just put my own thoughts in, really. I mean, thank you very much for a very insightful presentation. I think it's very easy to forget the foundation that academic integrity is built on, and I think that summarised it really well, and I found it very useful, so thank you. And just in terms of like the future and academic integrity, I think the concern that all of us have would be sort of how technology might influence from both sides, from protecting the academic integrity of an institute, but also opportunities that students might feel to be able to use other tools to, you know, like you quite rightly said about sort of students feel under pressure, and then they're trying to find other ways of trying to make sure they're performing at the required standard. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on sort of anything that might, you know, where we're going in the future with this.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. David. It is a very relevant thing because these days, this is the biggest challenge that we are facing, at least in the recent times, like 2 years, maybe just under 2 years, right? Since we have AI, ChatGPT. So every time we have a problem, even the grown-ups tend to go to ChatGPT and ask for a solution. So that it's again, the same practice is something that we need. It should be integrated into the daily academic practice, so that they realize that this is not something that should be done. This is not what we are expected to do, to be done. This is not something that we are expected to do in our academic day-to-day life. It's not going to be very easy because, like I said in my presentation, there are different forms of academic dishonesty, and using AI is something that needs to be seriously researched on, and the researchers need to come up with techniques other than plagiarism detection tools, like Turnitin. Yeah, Sini.
Hi, Dr. Krishna. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And yes, thanks for David's question, because it's very relevant. Being in the field of AI and in computer science, see, if most of us, see, in this era of ChatGPT, I could face that, the students are more, they get the answers and the resources, everything at the flick of their thumb. It's very easy for them to get it. So as a tutor from computer science, I feel like, maybe even if we say one of my, courses pattern is programming courses pattern is such that, your quiz is stronger. For doing your quiz part, you have to break your head and find out your answers. But at the same time, the practical part, you can look into any resources, it's fine. But the ultimate, at the end of the day, you have a quick Viva session, which will help me to understand whether they really know what they have programmed and what they're actually giving to me. This is one thing which I used to follow. I just want to share with you all, this is one thing which I used to follow. If you have any good thoughts on that, if I would be more than, happy to listen to them. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
I think that's a very practical solution or practical step from a person who's working with it. I think Dr. David might agree with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If there's anyone else want to share something.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Krishna. This is Dr. Shahnawaz Khan, and actually, Dr. Philip is not currently available for
Okay.
the closing. He's busy with another meeting.
Yeah,
So
you told me
thank you
that.
very much for being here with us and providing your insightful discussion on this academic integrity topic. And we are very happy to have you. And hopefully in future, we might see you again for some more interesting topic. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this session. And if you have any further question, please feel free to ask those questions or right now with to Dr. Krishna, or you can send those questions to us and then we can communicate with you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. We shall meet in the next lecture.